Okay, so the 25th problem in the Leet code is to reverse the nodes in a K group. Okay, so basically here we'll be given a linked list. Okay, and we'll be given a value K, and we need to reverse those sub linked list elements basically. Okay, so here if you given as a 3, right, we'll have to swap 1 to 3 2 3 to 1, and again if 4 5 6, we'll have to swap it to, we'll have to reverse it to 6 4 6 5 4. Okay, so before actually going to this, right, previously we had solved a problem similar to this where we will be given a linked list. Okay, one to, like, I mean, basically like this, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, there it's basically, it was K was a 2 initially, right? Like what we used to do was, we used to swap, or we used to reverse the each pair. Okay, let's say that if it's a 1 2, right, we used to swap it to 2 1 3 4 4 3, and if it was if there was a 5 6, right, we used to swap it as, we used to swap or reverse as 6 5, right? And if there is not enough elements, we'll just leave it as it is. This was the old problem, but now the problem here is it will be K will be dynamic. Initially that K is equal to 2 there, like, I mean, we were asked to swap each pairs, but here it will K will go as a dynamic. Okay, here K is equal to 3, right? So how it looks here is 1 to 3 will go as 3 to 1, and next element is only 4 5. We don't have 6 here or any other element, right? We don't have enough elements to reverse it, correct? So what we'll do is just 4 5. If we had a 6 here, it will look like 6 5 4, right? Like if you don't have enough elements, we just have to leave it as it is. Okay, now coming to the implementation part, right? Before actually jumping on to the implementation part, let's just see how we can approach this problem. Okay, so here we are, here, let's say this is an example. Okay, this is a linked list. Okay, and K value is 3 here. Okay, so how we can approach this, right? Like basically what we are trying to do, like, we'll have to iterate and we'll have to pick the three elements as the K is equal to 3, right? We'll have to pick the three elements and we'll have to reverse it, correct? Pick the 3 element, reverse it, and pick the next 3 element, reverse it, right? So what we can do is, it clearly gives us an impression that it's better to have one common function which does the reversing, correct? So what we'll do now is, how we can reverse it, right? So let's say that we have a common function which takes the start node and end node and it reverses it. Okay, let's say that, for example, let's take 1 2 and 3, right? 1 is pointing to 2 and 2 is pointing to 3, and let's assume 3 is pointing to none. Okay, this is the general linked list, how we can reverse it, right? So what we can do here is we'll iterate through one by one. Okay, and then we'll just change our pointer to here, right? 2 will be pointing to 3 and 3 will be pointing to 2, and 1 should point it to something, right? Let's call it as a none. Okay, okay, so what we'll do is we'll run a while loop and we'll iterate through this linked list until we get a none. Okay, and just make sure that we store the previous node whenever we are iterating, right? Because as this is not a double linked list, we cannot reference one from two, right? Let's say that we are pointing our pointer to the node 2, right? We cannot get the value of the whatever the previous value, correct? So what we'll have to do is, when iterating through the previous value while loop, let's say that we initially will say it, we need to point our 1 to the none, right? So let's say that previous is equal to none. Okay, when we enter the loop, read this value, read this go to this node and check what was the previous value and point it to it. As the previous was none, we'll point it to none. Okay, and in the same loop we'll update our previous to the 1, because when we go to the 2, right, we'll lost that, we'll lose that value, so we'll store our previous is equal to 1. Okay, when we enter this next iteration, we'll point our current node to the previous one, which is 1. Okay, and previously when we go here, it will point to the 2. So this is the logic to build or reverse the sub arrays. Okay, so now let's say assume that we are able to reverse it. Okay, now the thing is, after reversing, we need to make sure that we join our linked list in the correct way. Okay, right? So let's take an example of this. Okay, after reversing, how it would look. Let's say that 6 5 4. Okay, and also we'll make sure that after we reverse, right, we'll return our head node. Okay, head node will always be the last node. Okay, that is one thing. We can actually read it in the we don't actually need to return it from the subarray, but let's assume that we'll be returning the new node from here. Okay, so now what is, like, after reversing, we have this thing. Okay, 6 5 4, and 4 is pointing to 4 is pointing to none, right? So but what we want is, we want 4 to point to 7, right, and 3 to point to 6, correct? So now just by looking at this, what it gives us information is, this is our group, right? Even though if it was our group, we need an element previous to that, correct? 3, we need 3 to point to this and 4 to point to the next one, correct? So that's why what we'll do is, but before actually jumping onto this, right, let's take an example for this now. Okay, as we just know, we got to know that we need some previous element, right, to point to this. So that's why what we'll do is we'll have a dummy node in the beginning also, because we need to reverse this node also, right? This pair or this group also will have to reverse it, right? So we'll have a dummy node here. Okay, let it be like that for time being. Okay, dummy node we need. Okay, and now here 456 is now changed to 654. We need to make sure to update 3 to 6 and 4 to 7. So for that we'll have to, before actually reversing it, right, before losing any values or reference, what we need to do is we'll have to store this value. Let's say that this is a previous group, right? Let's call it as a previous group ending, right? This is a previous group, this is one group 1, group 2, and this is a group 3, right? In the previous group, well, let's just call it as a previous group ending. Okay, now it is pointing to this. And also before actually losing the reference for 6, right, we'll have to store this also, because here we are changing the 6 is pointing to 5, right? We'll lose this reference to 7. So what we'll say is next group start, maybe something like that, right? We will call it as next group start, and that will point to the 7, and this will be the previous group end. Okay, this will be pointing to 3. Okay, now what we need to do is, and our return list, right, our reverse list, our reverse function is returning our head, correct? Whatever the reverse list returning our head. So what we can do just now is previous group end will dot next will point to the node that is being returned by the reversed function. Okay, whatever that is returning, right, will point to this. So now in this part we are settled. Okay, now it is, we can, when we pass to the linked list, it will be like 1 2 3 6 5 4, right? And now we need to make sure that group end, whatever the end node, right, that we need to point it to 7. Okay, and also if we can see that we are not creating any new nodes here, right? We are just reusing it. So we already know this node, right? Because when sending the, when we are reversing it, we actually send two param to this function, correct? One is actually, one is sufficient. Actually we can just send a start node here, correct? We sent a start node here, we know this node, correct? We just sent it to this node, so we know the what node it is. Like always this function would return as the, like, I mean, that node will be at the end. So what we'll do is we'll point our start node, to the end node, whichever, like, I mean, we'll store this reference before actually reversing it. So we'll just point our start node to this. 4 will be pointing to 7. So now how does it look? 1 will be pointing to 2, 2 will be pointing to 3, and 3 will be pointing to 6. Whatever the head node that is returned by this, right? We will use that. Okay, and we'll use that when we'll point it to this. And we know that start node should always point to the next group. So what we'll do is start dot not next will point to the next one. Okay, this is how we are reversing it, and we are actually linking the previous group to the current group and current group to the next group. Okay, and when it comes to the beginning, right, let's say that this was the middle group. Okay, and also the next thing is, we need to make, like, okay, we'll start from here. This is the first group. Okay, we have made a group, right? And to make this group, we'll have to make sure, we'll have to start from here. We'll have to start our start and end from here. We'll have to run a loop for 3 times, right? We'll have to point our start and end here, correct? We'll start from here, and we'll run the for loop for 3 times, and we will be pointing to here, correct? Similarly, what we'll do is we'll reverse it. We'll ask this function to reverse it and give me the list. So at the end it will be like 3 2 1. Okay, and what we'll do is previous group is nothing but, previous group end is nothing but a dummy node here. We'll just ask to, we'll point it to the 3 here, and whatever the initial node was there, right, that we will point it to 4. So that is it, that is the implementation. So to give the summary here, like, we'll need a function that helps in reversing the nodes. Okay, and it will finally return as a head node. That is one thing. And once we get, before actually calling that function, we need to make sure to store the previous group ending and the next group starting. Okay, so that we can just update our references and make it as a full complete linked list. So to look at the code, right, so as we just discussed, we'll need a function. We'll just need a function to reverse sublist. Okay, and here actually we don't need this end. So I had it before, so I just left it here. As we are not using it anywhere end, right? So we can actually consider removing this. Okay, so but I think I'm calling it here, so I will have to remove it from here also. Okay, so now what we'll do is, and also we are setting that group end to the next to the none. Actually, let's say that after 1 to 3, right, we are setting it to none. So that's how this logic will work. Like we'll be iterating through the linked list, and once we hit the none, right, once we hit the none, we'll stop it there basically. Okay, previous is equal to none, next node will be storing the next node, and we'll be just changing our references here. Current dot next is equal to previous. Okay, this is the reversing logic. And here, as we just saw, like we need always a previous group end to join the linked list, right? So that's why we'll have one dummy node in the beginning. Okay, this is one thing. And here, so as soon as we start, right, 1 2 3, we need to make sure that there are at least 3 nodes, right, when is equal to k is equal to 3. Let's say that here k is equal to let's say k is equal to 3, but we have only 2 elements, correct? We need, in that case, we'll just have to leave as it is and return our head node, correct? So that's what we are doing here. We'll run the for loop, and we'll set the group end to this. Okay, we'll be keep on updating our group ends. Okay, we'll be starting here. Group end here will be initially group end is equal to previous group end basically, right? 1 2 3 means we had a dummy node. Okay, it was pointing to there. We will be running the for loop for 3 times. 1 2 3. Okay, we'll be reaching here. Let's say, okay, this is a valid one, right? We need to reverse it. Let's say that next time previous group end was here, we'll run a for loop 3 times. 4 5 6, but there is nothing here, right? We'll have to it's the assumption that, okay, we are at the end of the linked list now, and we don't have enough elements to reverse. So we'll just reverse, we'll just send back whatever the result we found till now, right? If there is no group end, we'll return the dummy dot next. Okay, that is a head node basically. And if you have it 1 2 3, we'll just process further and we'll reverse it. Okay, so now we are able to identify if there are enough elements to reverse. Okay, now next thing is here, let's store those pointers, right? As we discussed, we need, let's say in this case of 4 5 6 3 4 7, right, we need this pointer, right? Previous group ending. Okay, and the next group starting. And also we need start and end is not required. Yeah, let's assume that we need only this. Okay, so how are we need to store those references. Group start is nothing but equal to previous group end to the next night, right? Previous group will be in something here, and we'll get the next one. This is the group start. Okay, group start will be one here, and next group start will be whatever the group after do this calculation, right? My group start will be pointing to this, and group my end will be pointing to this, correct? Group start is, we got the group start, and group end, next group start is nothing but group end dot next, right? We got that value, and we'll update it to none, so that it will helpful for us to, while iterating through that linked list, we can identify, right? In 1 2 3, where is the end. Based on that, that will be helpful, so we'll set it to none. And then previous group end, like we'll reverse it. Okay, we'll reverse it, and then we'll make sure to join 3 to 6, right? We'll have to join that. So we'll previous group end, which was a dummy node, that will point to the whatever the after reversal, right? After reversal, whatever the node we get, we'll point to that. And then we'll have to point 1 to the 4, right? 1 to the 4. So that's what we are doing. Group start is, will to point to the next. Yeah, similarly, we'll just update our group pointer. Next group start will do this, and then we'll be iterating through this loop again and again. Yeah, that is it. Actually, we'll just to summarize, we'll just need one common function to reverse it, and we'll need to store these pointers. Okay, so that after reversing, we'll just can just arrange it in a proper order. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.